Testing, 1, 2, 3. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to our Wednesday morning class as we continue on talking about the second causes of aging. So we're trying to do our best to have a better mortal experience. I know sometimes I was, as I've told you, I was in a group that they were called immortalists. They believe in immortality. But I think what they were skipping was the ability to raise our mortal life to the level of receiving the immortality that we already have. You don't get immortality, you are immortality. That's why we believe in that consciousness continues after the physical death of the body. There's always that's the infinite part of ourselves, that part that has no beginning and no end. And what do we call that? The God self. Because that's often how we interpret God, is without beginning, without end, with the infinite in the finite. The finite is the physical experience, the human experience. So that's what we're working with a little bit, is how do we raise the vibratory frequency of our physical mortal experience? And if we keep doing that, at some point, whether in this generation or not, there will be a generation that will no longer walk as their forefathers. That's Psalm 78. I see a generation. Now that's a very visionary statement. And supposedly it's made by David, who wrote the Psalms. And therefore he had a vision way down the line and saw that there would be a certain generation that would say to their own ancestral story, the buck stops here with me. I no longer am a continuation of my ancestral story. Now, that doesn't mean all of our ancestral story is bad, but it does mean our ancestral story is more about our mortality, our human experience, and along with that territory comes the illnesses, disease, sickness, and aging, and all the things that we're dealing with, majority upon on this planet at this particular time. So, and I think this is deeply coded in the story of the fact that Jesus supposedly went into a place of death and came out of it, called the resurrection. So even the Apostle Paul wrote, I want to know him in the power of his resurrection. So resurrection has nothing to do with the doctrine of resurrection. It's not a point that we're going to debate whether a real man died, Jesus, and came out of a tomb and all of that. What does that mean to us now? That's what being a metaphysician is. It's not about the historical. It's learning the historical that brings us into what does that mean to us now. So what does that mean to us now is that we can, and we have the tools and we have the knowledge on how we can retune ourselves to a higher frequency of what it means to be a mortal human being. And I won't get into all that again, but I think it was last week that I did talk about the fact that Jesus, after the resurrection, stayed 50 days with them who knew him before the resurrection, but did not know him after the resurrection. Isn't that interesting? So he's walking down the road with them, talking about him. They had just seen him, been with him, knew him, and all of a sudden he's with them and they don't know him. Because after the resurrection, the body had changed its vibratory frequency so much that they had no frequency of consciousness in which they could interpret him at the level that he had gone to. That's why you don't see your angels. That's why you don't see your guides. That's why you don't see all these spiritual entities and beings that we all say we believe in, is because of the fact we're all on different frequencies. So if you ever do have an experience of seeing something like somebody's aura, or seeing the spirit of someone, it's because somehow you've tapped into a frequency match. And you had a consciousness to receive the invisible, and it was made visible to you. That makes sense to you? So that's kind of what this class is somewhat about. So we're still in chapter 2, which is a little bit longer than 1 was, so we want to kind of stay with that for today. If you have your notebook, you can go to page 6 in your notebook, page 6. And we're going to start up to the first paragraph that starts with therefore. The manner in which the physical body ages and dies is determined by the manner in which the individual misqualifies his life force energy through the nature of thinking. What does that mean? The manner in which the physical body ages and dies is determined by the manner in which the individual misqualifies his life force energy through the nature of his thinking. So let's look at that for just a moment. The nature of thinking is your basic intent. It is where you're coming from. How many times do you have a conversation with somebody, and when you hear your words come out, you're going, well, that's not really quite what I meant. So your words did not fit the nature of what you wanted to say, the intention. Oh, you know what I mean. Well, I really didn't mean it that way. Because you know the nature of your thought. You know where the thought's coming from. And that's what's important. Where is the thought coming from that makes up your belief systems? Where's the source? In other words, who's your daddy? Who's fathering your thoughts? Who's fathering your thoughts? And there's a great lesson where Jesus said to those who came out of the Old Testament law and religion, you're of your father, the adversary. But my Father seeks you to worship in spirit and in truth. Now get this, for the words that I speak are spirit. Wasn't about the spirit, it was literally spirit finding a pure channel in which it could speak itself through without losing in the interpretation. That's what we all should be striving for, is that the voice of the Spirit within us speaks in its purest form without losing in the translation of belief systems that we have qualified that came from outside of us. What religion has told us, what culture has told us, all the things that make us up make up the nature of our thought. So, this is saying because we have misqualified the life force energy, in other words, it's because we don't qualify the idea that I am a spiritual, immortal expression of the divine without beginning, without end, mother or father, beginning or the ending of days, but we keep working with what's limited. Trying to fix it, trying to find a magic bullet, trying to find a formula, trying to find a modality, trying to find something that's going to fix me. It all comes back to I'm broken, fix me. And how long will we keep doing that as human beings until we find out it just ain't a-working? There's got to be a better way. And that's what the Course says. The minute you say there is a better way and open your consciousness with willingness, then the mind of the Christ consciousness comes into your mind and you get clarity and direction about not only who you are, but where you are trying to attain to, the goal. So we have to change the nature of our thinking, which really we've kind of done here at HeartLight, because most of you who would dare share any of this with friends or family are going to think you're a little off because because of where you're coming from. They don't understand the nature of your thinking. So the fact that we have misqualified the fact that we are eternal spiritual beings, and rather we're broken human bodies, by the misqualification, it says that we have allowed our thinking and belief systems to not match the true nature of our thinking, which is spiritual. When thinking is upgraded, now this is what the class is about. The class is about how do we upgrade our thinking. All physical aspects of one's body are upgraded, improved, or corrected accordingly. Now, this is why I believe there is not huge crowds just following this kind of teaching, because people are not willing always to change their thinking and their belief systems because they are so identified with it that somehow they get a sense that I'm losing my identity, because my identity is what I believe in the nature of my thought. So for people to shift from what they think thing is to what things are, there is that what I call gap experience of not quite being here, but you've left here, but you're not there. So you're kind of in that place. And that's just a place you've got to be willing to go through. So when thinking is upgraded, all physical aspects in the body are upgraded, improved, or corrected accordingly. Everything that takes place in the body, or perhaps to the body, is the result of a thought that has been issued by the individual. This is where, in this realm of teaching, this is where there is no victim. I'm not saying there's not a place for victim in another realm, but in this realm of spiritual thinking, there is no victimization, because we hold the power and responsibility of how we think and what we qualify of those thoughts that becomes our belief system, which is how the lens in which we see ourselves, each other, in the world. So there's a few things we got to be willing to do here, and that is to improve our thinking, upgrade our thinking, and correct our thinking. And boy, if you want to do something to deflate your ego, is to say, I think I have not been correct about that belief, and I'm willing to change it. Because you know how you're perceived in this world by doing that? It's not being stable. You're all over the place. And then I never know what to think about what you're saying. You change all the time. Because you're here on earth to correct thinking. So you got to be willing to look at some things that you really are very strong about believing. And maybe it needs some tweaking, some correcting, something. Everything that takes place in the body or happens to the body is a result of a thought that has been issued by the individual. All this action is controlled by the manner in which one qualifies one's life force energy. The intelligence one applies to one's thoughts determines what and how conditions will occur in the body. I mean, I know we hear this, but I don't know that we have really grasped this kind of power that we have. And there's too much, in 3D, we accept all of this thing about aging and all that. It's the norm of 3D. For somehow we think by the time we hit, because I read all the time things like, when you're 40, this starts happening. When you're 50, this is what starts happening. When you get around 60, this is what starts happening. People of 70, this is what happens. They've got us categorized by age into exactly what is supposed to be happening that we believe is normal for it to be happening. So now we think it's normal that we get arthritis. We think it's normal if men get prostate issues, women get cervical issues, breast cancer. All these things are so the norm that we've accepted that's just the way it is and nothing can be done about it. So we need a correction in the nature of our thinking. And this is certainly not for the babes or the adolescents in Christ. This is for the co-creative adult stage. So what I want to get down to is the 1, 2, 3 paragraph that starts with another question discussed is, everybody with me? Why doesn't proper nutrition cure disease and major health problems? Because proper nutrition is composed of objects of nature, and objects of nature cannot cause or cure improper nutrition is not the cause of the condition. Now, you're going to find out that he is very much for eating correctly and your diet and stuff, but he doesn't want you to think that is the first cause for your health. Improper nutrition is not the cause of the condition. Now, proper nutrition can be used by the immune response system to repair and rebuild damaged cells and can manufacture upgraded new cells, but only, here it is, but only after the thought pattern that caused the condition has been balanced and the electromagnetic currents that bind the creator to the action of those thoughts have been severed. So this is why you got some people over here that are extremists about, let's say, the diet. No meat, no, vegan, all those kind of things. Now, I'm not judging those things right or wrong. I'm just saying there's people that's very strong because they believe that is the source of what's going to make them healthy. And that just ain't the truth. I've seen some very unhealthy vegetarians that I thought you need to go eat some meat. And vice versa. So now I'm not talking about physical issues with things, but I'm talking about the fact that we look at things themselves as being the source of how we can live a more healthier life. This is that will not matter unless you first change the consciousness behind your lifestyle. So why? I almost would ask the question, why would we want to be healthier? Why do we want to not have sickness? Why would we want to not have illnesses and diseases in our life? I don't think that's something we look at, but that's the nature of our thought. Of course, my first response is I don't want to have it because it hurts, because it limits me, because it doesn't feel good. But that's not it. It's the same with money. I'll give you an example of money. And all this money and prosperity and teachings like that. A lot of people want money because they want more money. That's why people go to prosperity things, because they want more money so they can be able to buy more stuff and whatever they want, live in a bigger house, drive a better car, so on and so forth. And people who have that, how many of them have you seen that make them happy? Trust me, some of them are the most miserable. I happened to catch the Kardashians the other day. These people got more money than all the gods. And houses, they can do anything that they want to, but they still have everyday human issues just like everybody else. But here's what I came up with. What's the nature behind why I would like to have a comfortable amount of finance? One, because I'm a spirit being limited to a human body. So I'm kind of the prisoner of time-space in 3D. So, as you will see on my stuff this weekend, there are times when Spirit would lay on my heart to go to a certain group or city in which I had no guarantee of making anything financially. More than I want to say, I have gone to groups all over with no promise of anything. Did not know what the offering was going to be, did not know if they were going to cover my expenses. I've done that over and over again. So oftentimes, I've been kind of limited about where I spiritually felt I wanted to go, but I didn't have the money for this body to get my spirit there. Are you with me? So all I wanted was enough money to say, if Spirit said I need to go to Minneapolis and speak to a new little group of people there that heard my tapes and they'd really like to have me come there, and my Spirit says, yes, you need to go there. But my physical life said, but you don't have the money, you can't even buy a plane ticket. But if I had the money, and that's not an issue, then I free my spirit in this human realm to be able to be obedient to where the Spirit wants to go. The second reason is I want money so I don't have to have the need for money. You see how I've changed the nature from having money so I can spend more, having money so I can be rich, having money so I can keep buying better cars and better houses and so on and so forth, to this is my spiritual purpose for wanting to not have the lack of money in my life. So I'm asking the question, what is the nature of why you want to have a healthier body? So you can be a better spiritual being on this planet. Right. I want to be healthier because I know that I came here with a purpose in this incarnation. I came here for a reason, and I want to fulfill that reason, and I don't need, first, premature death to take me out. If I'm going to have to go the way of so-called dying, then I'll wait for my appointed time. The Bible says that everybody has an appointed time of death. But it also says you can cancel that appointment. In Psalms 102. And the appointment shall be canceled. But if you're not going to cancel your appointment of death, then you need to not have premature death. That means you need to be here until you have fulfilled your sole purpose for why you incarnated without it being aborted. And you don't want it aborted this time because you may not be coming back again in 3D to work it out. So you got to get it this time. So this is what this is talking about. Why doesn't proper nutrition cure diseases and major health problems? Because proper nutrition is composed of objects of nature. In other words, outer things. Objects of nature cannot cause or cure. Improper nutrition is not the cause of the condition. So, I get diagnosed with arthritis. So I read all, and I get all this stuff all the time of what I should not eat evening shade. That's a big thing. No tomatoes, no peppers. They're called evening shade vegetables. Aggravates arthritis. I'm sure some of you have heard that. But that's not going to do it if the arthritis was caused by some mental, emotional, or leftover karmic mispatterning of my life stream that hasn't been taken care of. I cannot eat all the evening vegetables till the cows come home and really change nothing. Maybe I'll feel better, maybe I'll not. I'm not sure. That sometimes neglecting myself of things I really like is very happy. Makes me very happy. I hope you get what I'm saying. What is the nature of your thinking? What is your intent of your thinking? Why do you want what it is you're desiring to manifest? You want to manifest a partner because you just don't want to be alone? Because you need somebody in the bed beside you? Because you need a man? Or you need a woman? Or is it because you're looking for your twin flame partner? Looking for somebody that can work with you together as a couple for the planet, that you can do spiritual things together with each other. And these are the relationships that are basically doing well, where there is some kind of connection between the two partners in a relationship. If there's a connection spiritually, doesn't have to be a lot, but if there's anything there at all, it's easier than if there's nothing there and you ended up getting married because culture said you need to be married, or something's wrong with you if you don't get married, or whatever the reason is that makes people gravitate toward all this cultural propaganda, as far as I'm concerned, like it's something wrong. I remember ladies, one long ago, until if you weren't married, you was an old maid. You know, by 30 years old or by your 20s, something's wrong with you. So we did it. I did. People came to me when I was about 27 years old, and they started saying, you know, you're a pastor and a minister, you should be married. Every pastor needs to be married. And they used this scripture that every bishop should be the bishop should be a husband of one wife. Which I never understood, because a few pages back they had tens of thousands women. And I thought, well, God really had a flip of the mind there, from 10,000 concubines, and Solomon had all kinds of wives, and now you can only have one. Just crazy stuff. So under the pressure, I did it, but I said, okay. Apparently this is what maybe God wants. Maybe this is what being a Christian minister is about. And I don't want people thinking the wrong thing about me, and I want to fit in, and all that kind of nature of my thinking, which was not my natural nature. It was my unnatural thinking, if somebody will hear me. What you think is natural for somebody else is not natural for somebody else necessarily. That's natural for you. Just bothers me to say, the only natural way is this way. No, what's natural is what's natural to you. It's how you're set. It's your orientation. It is how you come in. Not to get on this, but sexual orientation, for instance. For some reason, we think if people are not like us, then it is a learned or chosen thing to be, because we think what people do is who they are. Anyway, I don't mean to get into that, but I guess it just bothers me that people might see someone like myself as unnatural and not understand that this is who I am and what's natural for me. They say, but I'm natural. You're unnatural. But what I'm trying to say to you, whoever you are was natural to you because you were born with that. Anyway, I should not get into that. Can't cross that out. I'll get into that. That's just a personal thing with me. It just bothers me because I want to say to people, did you choose? How many just sat around and said, okay, I just choose to be a heterosexual. That's my choice. No. You take it. It's natural for you. It is the way you were put together. It's the way you feel, the way you think. But it doesn't mean that because that's the way you think, that's the way everyone else thinks in his nature. And I'm sorry, I'm mentioning this because we need to grow up. out of some of these things that is so ridiculous right now.
David, my daughter and my grandson went to the Gay Pride Parade, and it was a big crowd.
Yeah, I heard there was.
Really, and over 200 floats and everything else. They really did a good job, but they were screaming, "You're a sinner, you're a sinner," and all that kind of crap.
Yeah, I know.
Holy rollers.
I know. Well, and I'm sorry, it just comes out once in a while because I just can't stand ignorance. Ignorance is Satan. If you don't know what the devil is, it is ignorance. Human ignorance. And people need to grow up and shed some of this 3D stuff that we have made our truth whatsoever. Anyway, I'm going to kind of apologize for bringing that up in a way, but I'm not in another way. So what I'm saying, basically what we're saying here is whatever you choose to do to be better, you can't be better by doing things. You have to start with changing your consciousness. The nature of your consciousness. Again, why do I want to be prosperous? Why do I want to be healthy? Why do I want to have a partner in my life? Start asking the why. I think one of the things that is most neglected, it's not when or what or how, but it's why. Ask more why. Why are things the way they are? Why would somebody act the way they do? So once we have, what this is saying is even if I did change my diet, there is a benefit in the fact that it will help my immune system. No doubt about it. And it rebuilds cells and manufacture new cells, but only after the thought patterns that called for the condition have been balanced and the electromagnetic currents that bind the creator to the action of those thoughts has been severed. What do we call that? Remember, we used to call it cutting the cord. We did that when I first came here. We did a message on cutting the cords. These are your electromagnetic cords that connect you to you, the creator, to what you want to create. This is the only way any condition or situation of life can be permanently changed. Some of them may be temporarily relieved. See, that's what we go for. Just fix me for now, I hurt. That's a human reaction. We all have it, I do too. Who doesn't? Some of them may be temporarily relieved, but not permanently cured or corrected. The reason is because we are creators, and that is the manner in which cosmic laws of the universe hold us responsible for what we create. Are we taking responsibility, or are we saying, I would have never done that. I would have never created that. I would have never allowed this condition. And that's why we cannot change certain situations in our life because we don't take the responsibility for being the creator of them. And when we don't do that, then we fall into the 3D drama story. The 3D drama story is the one where we have the hero, the villain, and the victim. And that means there's got to be something come and untie us off the railroad track. We've got to have a savior. We've got to have something, someone, something that comes and gets us out of this. But if we take the responsibility that I've created this by the nature of my thinking, then if I did it, then I can undo it, by golly. That's empowering, is to go, whoa, if I did it, I can change it. And I don't have to look for some doctor or some healer or some guru or somebody to come and do it for me. I did it, I can undo it. And at that moment, you come to the center of your power. So let me read it again. The reason is because we are creators, and this is the manner which cosmic law of the universe holds us responsible for what we have created. We are the creators of our own reality. Our reality can only be changed, corrected, or upgraded by the balancing and transmuting the thoughts that created it. I made a big statement last week. It really challenged me this week. But what I heard myself saying was the reason there's death in the world is because of the belief of death in the world. There is illness and sickness in the world because there's a belief in illness and sickness in the world. There is a horrible aging process that 99% of people go through because we believe that's the way it's got to be when we age, that we start losing our power to it. So the great question is, if there was not a belief, would it happen? Or if the tree falls in the forest and there's no one to hear it, would there be a sound? Or the Zen is the one hand clapping. Are you with me? So it's a challenge to say that all these things have come on the planet because of the belief in them, and the beliefs become so powerful that it begin to navigate toward itself, and like minds begin to join up, and that's why we have different systems of thought. Politically, religiously, most in everything, we've got differences of thought, but we got enough people coming together to keep that thought going from generation to generation to generation. And so religion came along and said, I'm going to give you the solution. The solution is just to do the best you can. You're going to suffer because you got to suffer because he did. So hang around your neck a cross with Jesus dying on it. Or put a picture in your house of Jesus hanging on the cross. And when you think you might have a moment of happiness, go look at it because you need to be suffering. The scripture says we have to suffer with his suffering. And a lot of people who believe that are not happy people to be around. I know very few people that have the idea that we have to suffer because Jesus suffered are not happy people, are pleasant people to be around in any way. So, we are the creators of our own reality. Our reality can only be changed and corrected and upgraded by the balancing, transmuting the thoughts that created it. Now the question is asked, don't we have free will to change the things we don't want? Yes, we have free will to change what we want, but once that desire is put into a thought form and issued into the atmosphere as a creation. Now I circled atmosphere here because atmosphere comes at the very beginning of what we call epigenetics by Bruce Lipton. Bruce Lipton was a doctor, a researcher who was one of the early researchers of stem cell. And what he learned that changed and revolutionized science completely, genetics, was that he learned that stem cells responded to different atmospheres in different petri dishes. If it was a hostile atmosphere, it moved away from it. But if it was a good atmosphere, it moved toward it. So he realized that our DNA was not set, but it actually would respond to the atmosphere that it was in, that was given. So you're like a human a petri dish. When you have an atmosphere of negativity and fear and all these kind of things, it moves away from you and disempowers you and weakens you and makes you more receptive to the lower aspects of human life, such as an illness, a disease, allergies, and that kind of thing that you just think is just normal and natural. And every spring, I just know I'm going to get some sinus issues. Every fall, they tell me it's from some tree here that puts yellow stuff on your car. I had no idea about that until somebody told me, and now I look for yellow stuff on cars, and I go, oh, it's sinus time. We're very powerful about how we create and miscreate things that are basic in our life. So, issued into the atmosphere as a creation. So now what we know is that our DNA is not trapped into just a physical 3D level, but there's a part of our genetic story that is more connected to the ethereal part of ourselves. Now we have a DNA workshop coming up here in a few weeks, which is our phase 3 DNA. And we will not be working with physical DNA, but we'll be working with the part of DNA that's in the etheric blueprint of the body, which is where the epigenetics is. So we work with epigenetics because if we change the atmosphere of epigenetics, we will change the result of our regular human DNA. Does that make sense to you? So we're not trying to change physical DNA first, because we got to change the nature of our DNA first, which is changing the atmosphere. And to do that, we have to clear out some of the stuff that's in our DNA that has become the result of misspelling our genetic material. How many of you know that you are the Word made flesh? You are genetic letters made into words that become your body. Every one of you has let's say you have brown eyes. Now maybe you got 4 letters in your DNA. Remember I taught you that? This has 26 letters. There's nothing but 26 letters in the English language, no more. And the only reason I know what words are is how they're sequenced. So when I see something like the word balanced, it's a group of those 26 letters that are sequenced: a B, an A, an L, an A, an N, a C, and an E, and a D. And when they're put in that sequence, I know the word is balanced. But wonder if, and this does happen, that we misspell something. I find it in my books all the time. I think, oh my God, how did we miss that one? So let's say the B-A and the A is gone, so we have B-A-L-N, and the E is gone, and we have C-D. I have no idea exactly what that word is, because I've lost the sequence of the letters, therefore I do not have the right word. What has happened to our genetic story is that we have lost the sequence and have missequenced a lot of our information to misinformation. So here's the great question for today. Can cancer be misspelled DNA? Can any illness or disease be due to the fact we lost the true sequence of our DNA message and ended up with misinformation and dis-ease, which we know starts with dis-ease, ends up as disease, but we get the disease and we run to the doctor and say, fix my disease. No, start with the dis-ease. Start with what caused. And that's why there's such a need. When I came into all this work that I'm doing for the last 22, 23, 24 years, was all, and I'm going to tell you this again, was all due to the fact that in a meditation, I heard formed in my human consciousness deoxyribonucleic acid. I'd never said the word, I didn't know what it meant, but I had never had any reason to use the word in a conversation, deoxyribonucleic acid. In fact, it took me, I'll say, 3 weeks or more of rehearsing to say that word mentally. And that's when I knew my mind was greater than my brain. Something was coming into the brain from another part of the mind. Are you with me? And because of that, I became totally fascinated and drawn to the subject of DNA. I had just gone through the O.J. Simpson trials, not long before that, in which every day was DNA testing, DNA testing, DNA testing. And I thought, DNA testing, what is that? I mean, this was a whole new thing that was happening. I mean, today that's freeing people out of prison and doing all kinds of things because now we have more DNA information that we can test and see, is it a match? If that person is accused of raping somebody and maybe the DNA did not match. So people are getting free because of DNA testing and matching. It's opened up a whole world that can change the world in that way. Then President at that time, Clinton, was giving us reports constantly about the Genome Project because they were sequencing human DNA, and it was going faster than they thought, and they had interpreted all of human DNA. And I have taught you this, that in one cell of the 50 trillion cells that you have, there is 6 feet of DNA coiled up in the center of your cell 7.5 million times with 3 billion letters in one cell. And you got 50 trillion. You got more DNA in you than you can go around the world about 8 times. You got enough DNA letters in you that would equal 800 Bibles. And that's not fascinating? But out of those 3 billion letters of one strand of DNA, there are only 4 letters, whereas there's 26 in English. There's only 4 letters in your DNA alphabet. A, C, G, and T. Now, if you want the words for that, it's adenine, thymine, thymine, guanine. We just called it ACGT. So you got brown eyes. So maybe brown eyes is spelled ATCTGC. Brown eyes. If that's a spelling of your genetics, the body's going to form brown eyes because that's the spelling. Everything that made this form, this body you're in, was due to the transcribing of your RNA to your DNA. And oftentimes things get messed up in the DNA and people are born with certain issues because of the misspelling of DNA. So can't you see why DNA work is so important and has been so neglected? Because we believe, and you're probably sitting there doing this, I always talk about, I'm not a geneticist, I'm not a scientist, that's just too much for me. No, it's not. With Bruce Lipton and Deepak Chopra and Greg Braden too have opened the door for the last 20, 25 years to this subject and brought it down to the level in which anybody can understand it who wants to. It's just people don't want to understand it because we are consciously, spiritually lazy. Let's just tell it like it is. People are basically lazy, and they want things just to happen magically and show up without the responsibility of becoming a part of the co-create process of changing things. And I'm not excluding me. Now, my life is this. So you all know I spend a lot of hours in the week reading and I mean, that's what I do. That's what I do. I read a lot. I look at things. I don't sit and just read books from top to bottom. I pick it up and look at something, and then what do? I contemplate it without judging it right or wrong, and I see, does this resonate with my innate intelligence? If it does, then I choose to qualify in this moment into my belief system, and then it becomes a part of cellular replication in my body. Oh. Later on in this course, you will learn how to transmute from your belief systems all of the old, false, negative, and contradictory belief patterns that are now qualifying your current thoughts and thereby causing all your problems, diseases, and difficulties. How about that? Do you even want to know? Or are you just so relaxed and apathetic that this is just the way it is? I'm going to get old, I'm going to have all kinds of diseases, and then finally I'm going to die, and God knows how that's going to happen. Or, let me read it again. You will learn how to transmute from your belief system all these old, false, negative, and contradictory belief patterns that are now qualifying your current thoughts, thereby causing all your problems, diseases, and difficulties. Once the belief system is cleared of these dominant, controlling belief patterns, then you can start loving yourself, praying to your God, making calls to your I Am presence or the Ascended Masters, and actually begin getting results. How about it? How about some results?
Yeah, okay. Let's do it.
I think a lot of you have been even in New Thought long enough, enough decades to think about, where is the beef? Remember that? Yeah. Where's the beef? Where's the results? I don't know about you, but after 60 years of this, I need some results. And this is helping me to realize how to get to those results if we'll take this seriously enough. And you that have this, you got it to review. Please do so. You got phenomenal information in this little supplement and book that you have here. So what have we kind of learned today? We've learned that basically the first thing we have to change is the nature of our thinking. We're going to call the nature why of our thinking. Why do I want manifestation? Why do I want more finance? Why do I want a healthier body? Why do I want to be more disease-free? Why do I want to get rid of generational miasms that followed down from generation to generation? That is a time bomb in me that could go off at any time. But let me be the beginning of a generation that says, no, the buck stops here. Somebody's got to start this thing. I'm not saying we're going to make it. I'm not promising you total immortality and overcoming physical death, but I'm trying to shift you away that does not have to be the dominant thinking. And where our thinking is changed, the energy will go with that thinking. And if we start thinking that and dare to think differently, by changing the atmosphere, which is tied, get this, to our electronic keynote. Isn't that great? I love that. Our electronic keynote. That means that in your electrical magnetic body, you have a specific personal key note that is only yours. That's how karma gets you. Karma gets you because it knows who put out something and where to bring it back to. And nobody has the keynote that you do. We are held responsible for the action until the thought form has been balanced and currents released. All treatments, medications, exercises of any form of resistance is merely chasing symptoms around and around in each condition. Boy, I feel that sometimes, like I get some kind of a symptom or whatever, and I'll run to this doctor, from this doctor to that doctor to this doctor, and I'm just chasing things around rather than really dealing with it. This is the only way that any disease, malfunction, social habit, or negative condition in our life can be permanently eliminated. Wow, this really gets good. We're going to stop there for today, and we're going to continue, pick that up right here. This is definitely a book of great understanding, and also a book on how we can do it if we choose to make the commitment to transforming and to changing our lives. So we got about 5 minutes. I'll open it up for any questions or statements or anything that you might want to share. So tell me something that stimulated you, that you caught from it. That
just now when I was talking about, I'm trying to go back and find it. Hold on. I already closed my book. I was talking about the treatment. That lines up so much with what we've talked about in so many of the other classes that you've had, sermons that you've had, all those kind of things. I mean, it really is about our ability to take control. But unless we think we can, we can't. No matter how many times you say it, it doesn't matter until we think we can.
beautiful, and that's the nature of your thinking right there.
And if you look at the definition of think in the back of this.
And that's where we're going.
Okay.
I got it right here, page 24. Yeah, we're gonna start there the next time on some of the glossary. Is just amazing in this book. You can learn a lot of things that we use, words that we use, and don't really grasp what it means. But we're going to go through those things too. Thank you, Rhonda. That's a good point. In other words, you got to think about what you think.
Yeah.
Think about what you think. Yes, Karen.
Okay, this happened many years ago, but for some reason, I looked in the mirror, very close pupil into the mirror, and I said, I love myself completely and unconditionally. I did that just to do it. And after about 3 weeks, all of a sudden, incredible things started happening in my life. Things started coming together. Opportunities, money. It was just blew my mind how powerful that was. So, I don't know, for me, what I'm going to start practicing is getting my close-up mirror up, looking right in my pupil, because it seems like the eye is the portal of the soul, and addressing some things I would like different.
Very good. Thank you for bringing that up, because that's just something I was just thinking about and reading about, how important it is to look into a mirror and just say it over. And it's not going to be easy in the beginning. You're going to have a tendency to turn away, but if you'll keep doing it, as she's saying, you'll have a breakthrough, and you will not see yourself through the judgment part of the brain, where, you know, I'm looking older, I'm getting some wrinkles, I'm not as pretty as I used to be. All that kind of stuff is in your brain somewhere. But if you just kind of get through that until you really, really see yourself for who you are, and no less or no more than that, I agree with Karen that it does open up a lot of wonderful spiritual portals for things to start happening in your life. Yeah, I think religion, one of the great things about religion that bothers me is how they have taken us away from ourself. You know, I was taught self is of the flesh, and it's of the devil, and it's bad, that you should crucify yourself and all that kind of thing. And that's the very thing we need to start with, is ourself. To know ourselves, to understand ourselves. Well, our time is basically up, so looking for a very special weekend this weekend. Again, I don't know everything that's going on. They've kept most of it from me. I was going to suggest to Tim, I don't know if it's too late, but people who are coming to the banquet and stuff, I really wanted to suggest everybody taking some kind of a home test and seeing where you are, so that we don't have any repeats of what happened last time that we got together. So if you have a home, or you can get a test if you're coming, I think it'd be a very smart thing to do. All right? Anyway, I'm looking forward to see. I know Tim's worked very, very hard at this, and I want to thank those who have been helping him, Rhonda, Barbara, Michael, and whoever. I don't know who else done what. Sandra, I don't want to leave anybody out, but whoever has been a part of anything, I want to thank you for making this what it's going to be, I guess. I told him this felt like a life review, which usually happens between lifetimes. And I thought, okay, am I getting ready to do something? You know, transmute or do something. But looking at 60 years of your life is like a life review, let me tell you. So it's been very interesting to go through this thing. All right, thank you. If you have any offering for the class, I certainly appreciate it. Let's keep supporting it. If you want to keep it going, I don't mind doing the work. I don't mind being here, but this is a relationship. If you're not going to put in, what you put in is what you're going to get out. So put something in and invest it in there. All right, everybody have a beautiful day, and we're thankful for the Holy Spirit, who is our true teacher. We always recognize it as our teacher to teach us, lead us, and guide us. And this week, remember your power, and remember this mantra: I am the center of my power. Say it with me. I am the center of my power. And let's put now to it. I am the center of my power now. Thank you.